What's going on, gooey gang? So this video is going to be kind of unscripted for the most part. I'm just going to be talking about my opinions on the town updates kind of coming up. And yeah, make sure to subscribe, like down below to join the gooey gang. Y'all been killing it lately on some of these recent videos, these high kill games and stuff. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'm glad y'all really been killing the other ones, because I wasn't too sure if they were going to do that well, but surprisingly enough, they did pretty good. So yeah, alright, so I'll just start off the bat. I have like a notepad, but it's not really a script, it's just a couple ideas. So I think right now, town, it's okay. It's kind of dry. I think that the fact that Decode's kind of changing a bunch of the animations and stuff. Actually, I think another member on the dev team is actually doing a lot of the animations. But aside from that, the animations are getting updated, and I think that's pretty cool. Just to make the game feel cleaner, have a nicer vibe to it. I don't think it was like needed, but I mean, it's not like a bad change. I think it's pretty cool to have the animations looking a bit just better overall. But in my opinion, I feel like the game needs more like diversity, if that makes sense. Because I feel like the gameplay loop is kind of very like repetitive, especially if you're just kind of like killing people. Just like, I feel like the average player isn't gonna like really build or try hard. They're just trying to running around and shooting people. And I feel like at least in my opinion, for like the average player, like it's kind of boring, or at least for me it is. I think some of the stuff Decode's adding in debug right now is pretty cool, I guess. Like the gun bobbing, kind of, if you jump, the gun bobs a little more, or the recoil kind of like works differently. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like those things don't really change like the core combat and the core like loop of town. I know some people asked for like, or mentioned before, like kind of in the Discord, the town Discord, like quote unquote COD movement, and I don't know if I'd exactly say that'd be cool for town, but just something to kind of like make combat a little bit more different, like mechanically kind of. This sounds so cringy, but I don't know. I think maybe a TTK increase would be cool. Time to kill. I know the game's kind of more like semi-milsim sort of, so I don't think that's gonna happen. Just gonna be honest, because it's like a milsim, quote unquote milsim game. But I don't know. I think something just to make combat more diverse. In my opinion, I think the fact that the game is quote unquote milsim kind of holds it down a little bit. Because like, we can't do this because it's milsim. We can't do that because it's not realistic. We can't do this because it's not realistic. I don't know. In my opinion, it holds the game down. But I think a lot of people like that, and I wouldn't want to change one thing that most of the player base would dislike just for like maybe a small part actually like it. So I think we probably should keep that milsim aspect, I guess. I think a movement update could be interesting, or maybe just kind of increasing the movement speed a little bit overall. Because I think it just feels really slow. And again, like I said, it is kind of semi-realistic, but I think it can just feel really slow at times. Like you're trying to move from target to target, but it's just like, if you kind of don't hold your weapon out and you see someone, because they shoot first, they're likely gonna win, unless you just have like crazy, I guess, luck or something. And even in debug, you can kind of shoot your weapon like the second you pull it out, but if someone shoots you and then you're kind of like, even if you like start shooting right after, because the time to kill is so fast, you're pretty much gonna almost die in most cases. At least if the person you're fighting is like fairly good. I don't know. I think a lot of town combat is like, it's not more about like what happens once you actually start shooting each other. It's more like what happens before you start shooting each other, if that makes sense. At least if the two people fighting are like good at the game, tryharding or whatever. Because once you start shooting, if you get the first shots, they're dead. So I just wish there was more in that fight. Like maybe you could do something more, if that makes sense. I think a TTK increase would kind of help with that. So you have to kind of aim more. But I don't know. I think really all you can do mid gunfight right now is just kind of spam prone and hope for the best. Yeah, but I just wish there's more and more like mechanically stuff like in gunfights. Because I think that'll make the game a lot more fun, you know, being someone who has kind of grinded this game. Yeah, so the next thing I'll be talking about is just kind of gun rebalancing. I know Decode already mentioned that he'll do this eventually. It's not really like a priority right now. I think it's just he's focusing on whatchamacallit, animations. So I think he'll do the gun rebalancing later. But I think that a gun rebalance will be nice, pretty cool for the game. I think there's not really any OP guns aside from shotguns, but again, because it's semi-realistic, I don't think they're getting nerfed either. But I think aside from shotties, there's not much like guns in the game that really are super OP. Maybe the cowboy gun, the Barrett. Aside from that, there's not many guns I feel are super overpowered. I think maybe the HK. Like from a number standpoint, the HK is pretty OP. It's like it has the power of like a Scar or Groza, but significantly less like recoil and weight. So I think that can maybe take a small nerf. I mean, I use it a lot. To me, it's probably one of my favorite guns. If more people use the HK, I would definitely say it really needed a nerf. But because it's not that popular, I mean, I don't think it's super important. But I think really gun rebalancing should be more about making guns unique that aren't used that much. Like the G3, the RPK, just guns that are like almost filler guns essentially. I can't think of that many off the top of my head. Maybe maybe UMP. I think a lot of the ARs are just so forgettable. Not in like a super negative way, but just because they're all so samey. That one AR isn't that much different from the next. Like the AK to the RPK. It's like a very minor difference. And I think it would be cool if guns kind of had more, I guess, thought in their stats. I know, I'm not trying to like, I know Decode said when he made the guns, that he kind of just threw numbers around. But, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it wasn't even meant to really be a game of sorts. But I just wish there's more like guns were more unique. Like if I use AK and RPK, it feels like I'm using a different weapon, you know. Like maybe the RPK has more ammo per se, but it has maybe like a higher recoil stat, but like a better accuracy stat. So it's like a more higher rewarding weapon because you have more ammo. But if you can handle the recoil, you kind of like get more shots. If that makes sense. Like it has more ammo, but it has higher recoil, kind of. So maybe that would diversify the AK versus the RPK. Or maybe the G3, for example. It has pretty much no strong suit except the fact that it has pretty clean iron sights and semi-low recoil. So maybe it's the G3 is like a longer range weapon. Maybe it's a really low recoil stat. So it's kind of like a long range AR kind of thing. Maybe that's its strong suit. Because I feel like it could really diversify the weapons. Because at least in terms of long range, like spray weapons, there aren't that many. It's like maybe the AUG, the QBZ, and the Chris Vector. So there's not many weapons that ARs you can use at like long range. So maybe making the G3 viable at long range can make it like different from other ARs. I don't know, maybe you can make the Groza and the Scar. Those are pretty much identical. Maybe you can make like the Scar maybe like a slightly less powerful but like slightly more lighter weapon. So it's like they're similar but not exactly the same. Just a lot of guns in the whole town arsenal are just kind of samey and identical to one another. So I just think making them unique would be really cool. So it's kind of like there's more diversity in the guns, especially the pistols. I feel like the pistols can be a little more changed because they're pretty bad. They're pretty bad. Yeah. So I guess lastly I'll mention the map. Maybe a new map would be cool. That would really help change town a lot. I think playing on the same couple houses gets pretty boring after you kind of break the same windows and you know where the windows at, you know where the spots are. I think the houses could be built so it's a little less cheesy. I feel like there's a lot of spots where you can hide in corners and camp and get rewarded for it within the game. And I think it makes it a little less fun because you're just kind of checking corners and making sure that you're not getting shot from every angle. And again, if it's semi-realistic in real life, yeah, you probably would sit in the corner and wait for your opponent to pull up on you. But I think from a gameplay standpoint, a lot of weird corners is kind of annoying. But I think the yellow house, in my opinion, is probably the best example of like the most fun house to fight at because there's so much like various cover options, like you can open a door and use that as cover. There's the counter in the kitchen that's cover. There's multiple rooms. It's kind of annoying to push through at times. Again, because it can just be so campy. But I think it's the most diverse house. I think the greenhouse is also interesting because it's kind of like the person at the top has the advantage, kind of. But I think the windows kind of help alleviate that because you can jump through the window and then like flank or something. But I think a new map overall would be cool. I heard some people like think of an island map. I don't really know if Decode wants to do a new map that's like related to the town lore. I don't really care, to be honest. As long as it's something just fresh and different. Maybe the island map, for example, just an idea, has like some kind of water mechanic, something to do with water. I don't know. I think just something on the map that could change stuff up, or even if just the aesthetic changes. Like it's an island, and the buildings are more like, how do you explain it? Islandy, like huts, kind of. They're more like hut themed, like tiki kind of themed. I don't know. Just something like different than the current town map, because I think it gets pretty old. I don't think most people would want an island, but I think just a different like aesthetic kind of could do a lot for the game. Yeah, overall that's about all I gotta say. I think town is it's getting better. I think it's getting better, but from a quote unquote content creator perspective, I think it's pretty dry at the moment. But yeah. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Hope y'all stay gooey, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.